Good morning children and welcome back to your chemistry class. Yesterday I had begun with a new chapter, that is hydrogen, and we had discussed about the properties of hydrogen, its dual nature and the laboratory preparation as well as the commercial method of preparing hydrogen. We also did the physical properties yesterday. So today I shall begin with the chemical properties of hydrogen. So over here, for the chemical properties of hydrogen, one should remember that the hydrogen-hydrogen bond dissociation enthalpy is the highest for a single bond between two atoms of any element, right? So at about 5000 Kelvin, it dissociates to give about 95.5%. So this is relatively an inert at room temperature due to its high hydrogen-hydrogen bond enthalpy. So keeping this point in mind, we are going to study some chemical reactions where hydrogen is involved. So coming to the first kind, that is the reaction with halogens. Okay, so you know what are halogens, like chlorine, fluorine, bromine. Okay, so over here hydrogen can react with chlorine when in the presence of sunlight. It is an explosive reaction. It is also called as a photolysis or a photochemical reaction, forming hydrogen chloride. This reaction can also take place in the diffused light. The reaction goes moderate, forming hydrogen chloride. Okay. Similarly, reaction with fluorine, it always takes place in dark, whereas with iodine, it always requires a catalyst. So I hope reaction with halogens is clear. So halogens over here, I mean to say fluorine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. So fluorine with fluorine, hydrogen reacts in dark. Okay, but with iodine hydrogen reacts by using a catalyst. Okay, now the second type of chemical reaction is reaction with dinitrogen. Now when I say dinitrogen, what am I talking about? N2. So this is also your Haber's process. So hydrogen combines with nitrogen and this is a reversible reaction forming ammonia. Clear? So let us balance this. We have 3 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of nitrogen combining to give you 2 volumes of ammonia. Do you remember this reaction? 3:1, that is 3 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of nitrogen in ratio 3:1. They combine to give us half the volume. Here we have 4 volumes and here we obtain 2 volumes of ammonia. But this reaction is impossible if we do not use some suitable conditions. So what are those suitable conditions over here? We need a catalyst, that is iron, finely divided iron, and it also needs a promoter, which is a molybdenum. It needs temperature, say it is 673 Kelvin, and the atmosphere required is around 200 atmosphere. So when all these conditions are given to 3 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of nitrogen, then we obtain just half the volume. So here we see that hydrogen can easily combine with dinitrogen. Now let's talk about reaction with metals. So it can easily react with metals to give metal hydrides. Okay. So for example, lithium combines with hydrogen to form lithium hydride. So let's balance this 2 and 2. This is called as lithium hydride. Similarly, Sodium can also combine with hydrogen to give us sodium hydride. So you balance this also. Same way, calcium can combine with hydrogen to give calcium hydride. Barium can combine with hydrogen to give barium hydride. Clear? So with the transition metals, this dihydrogen may form the hydrides, and these hydrides, what are they termed as? It is called as interstitial hydrides. What are they also termed as? Interstitial hydrides. Okay. Then fourth reaction, reaction with sulfur. Okay, let me write like this, with sulfur. So what is the color of sulfur? Hydrogen combines with sulfur when in its molten state, right? And gives hydrogen sulfide, which is a rotten egg smelling gas. Clear? So this was the reaction with sulfur. Now further, let's do the fifth reaction, reaction with dioxygen. Okay, dioxygen means O2. So hydrogen combines with oxygen. So under what condition? Either it requires a catalyst or it requires heating in the presence of moisture, and it is going to form water. Okay, so let's balance this. This is 2 and 2. So this is the hydrogen reacting with oxygen in the presence of catalyst, or in the presence of moisture it is heated to obtain water molecules, which is always in its liquid state, right? Then next, the sixth one, reaction with metal oxides, right? So over here, let's take some example. If you remember that yesterday we discussed that hydrogen is a good reducing agent, so it can easily reduce the metal oxides to metals, its respective metals. So over here, copper oxide reacts with hydrogen. When heated, what do we get? We get copper. The reddish brown, the pinkish color or reddish brown color copper is obtained from the black color copper oxide, which is when treated with the colorless, odorless gas, that is hydrogen. Then zinc oxide. What do you know about zinc oxide? It is yellow when hot and white when cold. So this is when treated with hydrogen gas and it is heated, we get zinc and water molecules. Okay. Similarly, we can take Fe3O4 and allow hydrogen to pass through. On heating, it will give iron plus H2O. So let's balance this equation. This will be 4, 3, hydrogen 4. Clear? Next, the last reaction for the chemical properties of hydrogen, reaction with organic compounds, right? So the first one, if you remember, hydrogenation. What is hydrogenation? If you remember, hydrogenation of vegetable oils was done by using nickel or palladium as a catalyst, right, by passing hydrogen gas through it, and this gave an edible vanaspati ghee. So this was one example under reaction with organic compounds. The second one is hydroformylation. Okay, what do we study over here? In hydroformylation of olefins, it always gives aldehydes, which further they undergo reduction to give the alcohols. So let's see over here, hydrogen combines with carbon monoxide and an alkene, that is CH double bond CH2. and in the presence of what? Nickel or palladium or platinum. What temperature is required here? 473 Kelvin. So firstly it is going to form an aldehyde, that is RCH2CH2CHO. Further, when this is treated with more of hydrogen, and then once again in the presence of that same nickel, palladium and platinum at 473 Kelvin, now what is it going to give us? It will give us alcohol. So that is RCH2CH2CH2OH. Clear? So first it gives us aldehydes, and then on further treating with hydrogen under similar conditions it will give us alcohols. Okay, so with this we finish off all the chemical properties of hydrogen. Now let's talk about the uses of dihydrogen. What are the uses of dihydrogen? So firstly, in the synthesis of ammonia, which is used for the manufacture of nitric acid or even the nitrogenous fertilizers. Then, as we have read over here, it is used for the manufacture of vanaspati fat. Then in the manufacture of organic chemicals, right? Then it can be used for the manufacture of metal hydrides. In the metallurgical process, it is used to reduce the heavy metallic oxides to the respective metals. Then the atomic hydrogen and the oxyhydrogen torches, if you remember, they are used for cutting and welding of the metals, right? Then it is also used as fuel cells for generating electric energy, and it is also used as a rocket fuel in the space research. Now, what do we know about the hydrogen economy? That hydrogen, it has been considered as one of the alternative sources of energy. This you have already studied earlier in class 9th as well. So one major advantage of using hydrogen as a fuel is what? That it is environment friendly. That means it leaves the environment clean, giving only water as a combustion product. Secondly, the heat of combustion of this hydrogen, right, per gram is higher than any other fuel. So the only pollutant will be the oxides of your nitrogen, that is N2O or NO2, due to its impurity. So the basic principle of this hydrogen economy is what? The transportation and the storage of the energy in the form of gaseous or in the liquid dihydrogen. Okay. So this advantage of hydrogen economy is that the energy will be transferred in the form of dihydrogen and not as a electric power. So these pilot projects, they now use up this dihydrogen as a fuel, and thus it will also help in running the automobiles. Okay. Now next we come to, now let us talk about hydrides. Okay. So dihydrogen, under certain conditions, it combines with almost all the elements except the noble gases. Okay. And so what do they form? They form hydrides. So these hydrides, they can be classified into three. What are they? The first one is called as your ionic hydride. I'll explain all these three hydrides today. Okay, it is called as ionic hydrides. Then second one is called as covalent hydride, and the third one is called as your metallic hydride. So let us begin with the first one, that is your ionic hydrides. Now remember, these ionic hydrides are also called as salt-like hydrides. Okay. Now, as the word suggests, ionic means the hydrogen, it is combining with the metals, okay, to form that ionic hydride. So these are stoichiometric compounds of hydrogen or dihydrogen, which are formed with most of the S block elements, okay. So mostly which elements combine with hydrogen? It is your S block elements, and they are highly electropositive in nature, but their significant covalent character, it is found in the lighter metals such as say lithium hydride or beryllium hydride, right, and magnesium hydride. They are all polymeric in nature. So let us talk about these ionic hydrides. These are crystalline, so I am writing it down over here. They are crystalline, okay. They are non-volatile and non-conducting in solid state. Clear? But in its molten state, they allow electricity to pass through, and they also give out hydrogen at anode during the electrolysis, right? But in molten state, they conduct electricity and liberate hydrogen. Where? At which electrode does it liberate hydrogen? At anode, okay, during electrolysis. Clear? So this confirms that the presence of hydrogen ion is there. So over here you will see at anode, what do we observe? We will find that two hydrogen ions, they melt, and what do they form? Hydrogen gas is formed. Here they have to melt, and here they form the gas, plus 2 electrons are given out. Here you can also write -2, or here you can write +2. Okay, so this was the first point about them. Then let's talk about the second point. These ionic hydrides, they react violently with water and they produce hydrogen gas. So what did I tell you? S block elements, they generally form good ionic hydrides. So let us see in this example some of your ionic hydrides like NaH or even CaH2. So what am I telling you over here? That these ionic hydrides, they react violently with water, and what do they give out? They give out hydrogen gas. So this is NaH, that is sodium hydride. When treated with water, it is going to give us NaOH plus hydrogen gas is released. Okay. Then with calcium hydride, which is in its gaseous state, may combine with water molecules and forms, so calcium hydroxide plus hydrogen gas is formed over here. So to sum up over here, what did I tell you? That these ionic hydrides, they react violently with the water producing hydrogen gas. React violently, right? Then next, the third point in ionic hydride is that lithium hydride is rather unreactive at the moderate temperature with oxygen or chlorine, but it is used in the synthesis of other useful hydrides. Okay, like for example, lithium hydride can combine with Al2Cl6, that is aluminium chloride, forming what? Lithium aluminium hydride, and lithium chloride is formed over here. Okay. Similarly, lithium hydride when combines with boron hydride, this is going to give us lithium boron hydride. You can balance the equation 2 and 2 over here. Here this is 8, this is 2, and this will be 6 then. So I hope these ionic hydrides are clear to you. These ionic hydrides are those metals which are found in the S block which readily combine with the hydrogen and thus form ionic hydrides. These ionic hydrides, they are crystalline, non-volatile and non-conducting in solid state. But in the molten state, they conduct electricity and they give out hydrogen at anode. I have shown you the first reaction over here. Now we come to the second type of hydride. Now let us talk about the second type of hydride, that is covalent hydrides. So definitely when non-metals they combine with hydrogen, they will be termed as covalent hydrides. For example, it could be like CH4, it could be NH3, it could be H2O, it could be HF and so on. So being covalent in nature, they are volatile. Compounds. Okay, these are volatile compounds and these are also termed as molecular hydrides. What are also called as? Also called as molecular hydrides, right? So these molecular hydrides, they can further be classified. This can further get classified into electron deficient hydrides. Okay, then it could be electron precise hydrides, and thirdly it is your electron rich hydrides. Okay, so let's take an example in each case. So if talking about electron deficient hydrides, these are formed by group 13 elements. What? Formed by group 13 elements. Okay, so they could be like, for example, the first one example over here can be B2H6, right? So over here they act as a Lewis acid, or what in other words we can say, here they act as electron acceptors. Okay, they act as Lewis acids, that is, to explain you further, they are electron acceptors. Clear? Then let's talk about electron precise hydrides. These are compounds that have the required number of electrons to write down their conventional Lewis structures, right? So all the elements of group 14, they are from group 14 elements, they readily combine with hydrogen to form the Lewis structures. So all these elements of 14 group, they form such compounds, and they can be, for example, the second one, for example, could be like methane or ethane or ethene and so on. Clear? So this was about your electron precise hydrides. Now let's talk about the third example, that is electron rich hydrides. These electron rich hydrides, these are those compounds that have excess of electron in the form of a lone pair. They have excess of electron in the form of lone pairs, right? So let's talk about these elements. These elements, they are also found in group 15 and group 17, okay, from there. So they behave as Lewis bases. They behave as Lewis bases, right? So this was all about your covalent hydrides. We come to the third one and the last one for today, that is your metallic hydrides. Let us now talk about the third one, that is the metallic hydride. This metallic hydrides, they are also called as interstitial hydrides or interstitial hydrides. Okay, so many transition and inner transition elements, that is, what am I talking about? I'm talking about transition, then talking about inner transition, right? Or what we say S and F block elements, right? When they combine with hydrogen, they form what? The metallic hydrides. What do they form? They form metallic hydrides. So the transition elements of group transition elements could be from group 3, 4 or 5, right? They form the metallic hydrides. In group 6, only chromium forms the hydride. Okay, in group 6 only chromium forms the hydride. And there is a gap, and the elements of the 7th, 8th and the 9th, they do not form the hydride. So this is called as a hydride gap. The hydrides of, say, nickel, palladium, right, these are all interstitial hydrides, right, which means that hydrogen atoms, they occupy the interstitial sites. And some of the metals, example like platinum or palladium, they can be accommodated in large volume of hydrogen, and therefore it can be used as the storage device. So this property, it has high potential for hydrogen storage, and it is also a source of energy. Okay, so these metallic hydrides, they conduct electricity, right? So with this, I wind up today. So today we discussed about the chemical properties of hydrogen, and also we finished the hydrides. What are hydrides? When hydrogen is attached to the metals, then it is termed as hydride. So these can be of 3 types: ionic hydride, covalent hydride or metallic hydride. This is what I was trying to explain you, giving all the reasons. Okay, so I wind up over here. Revise thoroughly till here. Thank you.